you are. And until we own some shit, I'ma call it like it is. How you gonna be a man and we starving? Go ahead. You know? And you can walk by 5 different houses, ain't a man in either one of them motherfuckers. How we gonna be a man? How we gonna be African Americans? And we out here done. We done, and we niggas until we set this shit right. Trust me when I tell you that shit.
Certified salute. Y'all know what time it is. It's the Black Alpha Network back at it one more time. Shout out to everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching. Y'all know what it is. Make sure you give me that FBA family tree roll call. Tell everybody where you're from. Let everybody know what you're doing. But make sure you represent it to the fullest and always to the fullest. That's the only way we know how to go. Full speed, 100 million miles an hour, top drop down, all gas, no brakes. With that said, family, y'all know I bring out the stars. Y'all know I bring out the family. Y'all know everything I do got to be certified and thorough. So with that said, I got one of my certified thorough brothers right from down here. Salute to my man. This is my brother, your brother, our brother, Greg Marcel Dixon. What it do, family?
Hey, Alpha, how are you?
Man, I'm good, brother. I'm ready to cook. The family's always asking me, man, bring Marcel back on, man. Y'all dynamics is good, man. Our brother's certified, so you know I had to bring you on back, brother. What you been up to lately, man? Anything you've been working on? Anything you've been doing? Just let the family know, brother.
You know what? We're gonna surprise everyone one day by you're gonna have me on, and then you're gonna bring me on. We're gonna be in person, sitting across from each other, because you are literally just 25-30 minutes from me. I'm in Ridgeland, in Jasper County, South Carolina. You're in Savannah, in Chatham County, Georgia. And people don't realize, they may think, oh, you in Georgia, I'm in South Carolina, it's far away. No, really, it's just the Savannah River that separates us. It's a 30-minute drive. And I'm literally in Savannah all the time. Y'all, people in Savannah don't really come to where I am because we're rural. We go to y'all because that's where like my doctor's in Savannah.
Right.
My counselor's in Savannah. I go to sometimes when we can't find things in Bluffton, the bigger towns in Beaufort. We go over to Savannah. So we're gonna surprise people one day. But I've been good. I'm working on a lot of things. Before I went to the FBA Expo, which was amazing, by the way, I was studying more intensely for this cybersecurity certification, which is called CompTIA Security Plus. It's entry level, but it's known for being a pretty difficult exam, and I can attest it's very tricky. I would say I don't like to call things difficult. I always tell my students, you don't call things difficult, you say it's challenging. I would say it's challenging in that it's tricky. I have really been making an effort to be more on the ground. I have canvassers in certain parts of my district who are placing door holders on the doors of my constituents. And I myself have been knocking on doors, but also going to public events, shaking hands and speaking with people, trying to be as visible as I can be. I do gigs. I do teaching gigs. And right now, a lot of the schools are closed. There are some summer jobs, but they don't offer as many opportunities. I'm not on a contract, because if I'm a contracted teacher, I would not have enough time to dedicate to my campaign. So I've been trying to find gigs. So, I do have to still make a living. So a lot of my time is either trying to make a living and trying to balance that for the campaign. Unfortunately, though, because of economic circumstances, personally, campaign donations don't go to me. They go to the campaign, which is for us. But because of personal circumstances, unfortunately, I have been offered contracts to accept positions with certain school districts, and very well I may have to accept them, and I'm just trying to really work out a way that's going to merge with my campaign, because when I did that the first go round, it did not work for me mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. However, I'm a bit more seasoned now. I am a bit more experienced now, so I know how to make use of my time, albeit limited, even though it's not the best circumstances. But as Black Americans, freedmen or FBA, in this country, we know how to make the best of the worst, even when that doesn't make it right, but we know how to make the best of the worst. So that's been happening. I have some other things on which I'm working. You know, I am not a podcast person. No offense to you or anyone else, I kind of hate podcasts. I love being a guest on them because I love talking and engaging with people, but I hate it. People have always asked me to do one, and I would hate. I'm like, oh no, you know, I'm not that disciplined, and I don't.
That'd be fire, bro. I'm telling you, man, you light it up.
Thank you. I'm like, I don't know how to interview people. I know how to respond to questions and engage in conversations. I'm always not good at initiating. I'm pretty introverted. You know, you've been around me a couple of times. You can tell I know how to engage people, but then I'm pretty introverted.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know how to necessarily initiate, but people have told me it will be good for my campaign. I have spoken to people who they don't want to work on my campaign. They're like, look, I'm done with the game, but I know these people, not personally, I know them professionally. They have helped people win elections, not federal, state level, local level, and they have said, yeah, podcasts can work. They can get your message out there. They can help you to craft your message so that when people try to misconstrue it, you have an opportunity to convey it in a way without them misconstruing it. And they have told me it's a good idea. So I'm doing that. I just booked a pretty major guest, and I'm going to let people know about this guest. And I think people are going to tune in. I'm going to feel some kind of way because people are going to tune in, not for me. They're going to tune in for this guest because this guest tends to draw a crowd of, he's almost like Tariq Nasheed. You know, people follow Tariq because they love him, admire him, respect him, or they hate him and love to hate him and still respect him. So whatever he's on, he's going to draw a crowd. This guest is pretty much like that too. So it's been a lot going on, but I'm never too busy. Oh, and you know, in Savannah, we could get to that later interview, but I've been making connections with politicians in Savannah. You know, I love my people in Savannah because technically I am a Savannian. I was born in Savannah, Georgia. Like a lot of people in my county here in South Carolina are usually born over in Savannah, Georgia, and have family members that live in Savannah, Georgia, because what people don't know, this is a historic connection. When Georgia was first founded and Savannah was the first city, the people, they like to say Savannah didn't have slavery. That's a lie. The first people, it was built by slave labor. They rented enslaved people from South Carolina. And then when Georgia finally allowed slavery, the first Black people who were already there were really South Carolinians. And then, you know, a lot of the Gullah Geechee people who lived on the Sea Islands around here, like my great-grandmother's family and some of my father's family, my grandmother, my mother's side family, my father's family, they wanted to be in an area that had more resources. So some of them moved off of the Sea Islands and they moved over to Savannah. So, you know, that's what's been going on. I know that was a mouthful, but there you go.
You've been working. That's just me and our brother been out there on the grind, man, working. Everybody says that. Anytime somebody's like, yo, where Marcel Bowser there? Trust me, if you ain't seen our brother, he's on the grind, man, doing it for real. Truth to power. Hey, I got to say something you said not difficulty, challenges, right?
Yes, challenge.
I like that, brother. I like that. I'm gonna have to borrow that. I'm gonna give you credit, brother, but I gotta take that one. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say this to everybody out there, though. This is what I want to say, and I'm gonna ask you this question. There's been a whole lot going on in the news lately. A whole lot. Every day it's a new subject, a new story. I mean, if you blink, you miss everything. A lot of things have been going on from the grassroots level, like you were just saying, like how you're out there in the trenches putting in work. My thing is, I believe that the Black grassroots is literally changing this country. I always say, you feel me? Like our things that we do don't look like what everybody else does, everyone else does, because we're not everybody else. Like our victories look different than the POCs. Our victories look different than the minorities or from the dominant society. When we make things happen, you got to kind of see our effect. And if you blink, you'll miss it. Have you seen the whole situation, brother, that just dropped recently? Oh, and by the way, if it's 4th of July, I need y'all to be waving your Juneteenth flags. I need y'all to be waving your FBA flags. The same way everybody waved they shit on our day, we gonna wave our shit on their day 24/7, 365. Now, brother, I've been really wanting to ask you this, and a lot of people have been DMing me to bring you on and to ask you this question. Affirmative action, brother. Affirmative action. You know, I know it's hard out here for a Tether. It's hard out here for a Karen. It's, you know, it's very hard for Humbo. That right there. But it's business as usual for foundational Black Americans. If anything, it's progress because those people who've been using us as the lifeline, now they got to get their own stuff. I want to ask you about that. Then I want to run through some clips and I want to break them all down and just bring that energy, brother. What are your thoughts on the affirmative action ruling that just came out?
Well, let me tell you, yesterday they had the South Carolina Black Caucus. They named it again to the South Carolina Council of Black Democrats, you know, some crazy naming, whatever. I could care less. But let me tell you, it took everything in me to fight for saying, isn't it a great day here in South Carolina, America? Because, you know, but here's the crazy thing, Alpha. So most of these meetings are always older Black people, you know, Black South Carolinians, like really old, or Black women who are middle age. Hardly no young Black men ever. Okay, right. Very few Black men. You think that would show these Democrats that there's a problem. There are Democrats. The people in leadership who don't do a damn thing for Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves. Freeman FBA, if you are a Democrat in a position of power and you're not doing anything for Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves, the people on whose back the Democratic Party is built, you are a Democrat. Now, if you are in the Democratic Party and you just a supporter of them because you feel that's the best option for us, you're not necessarily a sellout. You just feel that Black people will have it even worse than the Republicans. Right. You're wrong, but I'm not going to call you a Democrat. You're just a Democrat. But you think the Democrats who are in leadership, the white ones and the Black ones, would see, okay, there are hardly no Black men who come to these meetings. There are hardly no young Black women either who come to these meetings. You think they would see that something's wrong. But here's the crazy thing, Alpha. None of the older Black people were crying about it. No, none of them. Even the Black people at the meeting, none of them were crying or complaining or talking about the affirmative action because Black people realized it wasn't helping us. Only one guy. They invited some elected Black guy who's an elected Democrat here in South Carolina. He mentioned it, but the lady who's in charge, Ms. Sumter, even she was like, she didn't mention it at all. So that was amazing to me. I thought I was going to have to just mute them out, whining and crying about affirmative action, which you, as you already mentioned, and studies and data has shown has not helped Black Americans for decades. When affirmative action was first initiated, Lyndon B. Johnson, who himself was an anti-Black bigot, you know, he tried to change and reform later in life because he had a heart attack and he had some epiphany where he realized that he needed to, you know, rectify and make amends for his past ways. And he said when affirmative action was first initiated, it's not gonna be an exact quote, but he says something to the extent of, you don't have a man chained for 300 years in a race, and then 300 years later, you take the shackles off his feet and say, go ahead and catch up with everyone else. He was talking about how Black Americans have been terrorized and by the government for 300 years, while other groups, white Americans and European immigrants, have been given land grants, education, housing, and just opportunities because they were white that were denied to Black Americans. So Lyndon B. Johnson even realized that when affirmative action was first introduced, it actually did help Black Americans. During the late 60s and early 70s, it did. But once they made it a minority program and a people of color program, it has shown now white women have benefited the most. And there was a study shown that when it does help Black people, it's not helping Black Americans, freedmen or FBA, who are descendants of American slaves. It's helping immigrants. And then you got people like Justice Sotomayor talking about a Latina. If it wasn't for affirmative action, a Latina like me would not be sitting here right now. When were Hispanics, who a lot of them are white, a lot of them identify as white, and during the civil rights movement, they went to court not to help fight for equal rights, but to be identified and classified as white. They weren't going to court to fight alongside us. They can look as Black as you and I, and some of them are still classifying themselves as white. The Census did a report saying how Black Puerto Ricans were identifying as white. So when did they go through the lynch mobs, Jim Crow, sharecropping, debtors prison, redlining, the FHA putting highways and rural roads through the neighborhood? They did it. Even the conservative justices, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, I always mess his last name up. Even he put Justice Clarence Thomas. Let me get him late. But even Neil Gorsuch put in his he wrote the opinion, the majority opinion. He wrote the opinion, the majority opinion. He said that a university can still consider how race has impacted someone's life. So I was saying, why are these white liberals so mad? They didn't say you can't talk, race cannot be considered. They said you just cannot use race as itself as a qualifying factor. But they said if race indeed has impacted someone's life, a university could consider that. I get why they're mad, because now all these other groups, and you know who's been calling this out for a long time? What's her name? Ann Coulter. As much as I can't stand her a lot of times, Ann Coulter's been saying all these other groups, LGBTQ, white woman, Ann Coulter is a white woman. Yep. She said white woman, LGBTQ, these immigrants, they come to America and they talk about how they've been persecuted and oppressed. And she was like, Black Americans are literally the only group that you can look on paper who have literally been terrorized and have yet to get any specific redress. She's like, but these other groups come here and get all the benefits. So I kept saying to myself, the Supreme Court didn't say that you have to ignore groups that have been oppressed because of race. They said if race has indeed impacted someone's life, you can consider that. They now know a white woman can't say race has impacted her life negatively. A Black immigrant who's from a majority Black country can't say American racism has hurt him or her. LGBTQ people, a lot of them white, can't say that racism from America has hurt them. So now the grip is over. And Clarence Thomas said, Freedmen, who's us, the Black person American slave, he said Freedmen doesn't apply to all Black people. He said there's not one type of Black people. And he said, it was him or Neil Gurish, he said a Black person from rural Alabama is not the same as a Black person from Nigeria. They literally said that.
Exactly what we've been saying.
Right. We've been saying that. They said you can't say all Black people are the same, have had the same experience. They said we don't do that for Asians. A Korean is different. A South Korean is different from a Filipino. A Indian from India is different from a person from Japan. Okay, a person from Bangladesh is different from a person from Vietnam. They said we acknowledge all these differences when it comes to other groups. So why do we act like a person is Black? They have the same blanket experience. And Clarence Thomas said, and people ignore this part, Clarence Thomas said you should consider if a person has been harmed by lack of generational inheritance. Clarence Thomas said, I am a person who lived through Jim Crow, redlining, and know very well the harms those things cause. So I kept saying, because I see all these white liberals talking about stuff, oh, are you going to hurt Black people? Wait a minute. Affirmative action hasn't been helping Black Americans for centuries, for decades. So I'm like, if these white liberals truly cared about Black Americans being helped, where were they for these decades when affirmative action wasn't helping us? And then I'm saying the Supreme Court ruling still allows for people to consider how racism has harmed them, how lack of generational wealth has harmed them. So it can still help Black Americans. I realize they aren't upset for us. They are upset for them. I'm glad to see it's going, and hopefully Justice Jackson Ketanji Brown, Jackson Brown, Justice Neil Gurish, I got to get these names right one day, Justice Clarence Thomas, Brett Kavanaugh, when they were having arguments or hearing arguments and debating among themselves, they all mentioned lineage, about how, okay, it was originally installed to address the wrongs done to Blacks who are descendants of American slaves. So should it not be for those people? This Supreme Court ruling just helped us. It's no longer about color, it's about lineage. And we have been saying that. But the white liberals and white conservatives, a lot of them are just so anti-Black American that the moment we speak about harms that's been done to us, they don't want to hear it. But yet the Supreme Court realized that what we've been saying actually legally, but just logically makes the most sense. That was a mouthful again, but I like it.
All the way. Lineage based. We've been saying lineage based. Brother, now have you noticed that the same liberals who claim to be allies, it's always Clarence Thomas who they come after.
Yep.
The same with the Roe versus Wade. All the other Supreme Court justices vote the same way, but they always focus on him. Same thing is going on right now. Did you notice that, brother?
Funny. When the Supreme Court, because Clarence Thomas has been on the bench since the 90s, When the Supreme Court makes rulings that white conservatives don't like, I notice a difference. You don't see white conservatives going after Clarence Thomas, calling him the N-word, even when he makes a ruling that they don't like. Because there have been a few times where Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, I gotta get these names right, Neil Gorsuch, I don't pay those people no attention. There's been a few times where people thought they were going to rule in a certain way, and they've actually ruled in a way that liberals actually liked. Right. You don't, and Clarence Thomas a few times has ruled in a way that liberals actually like, where he surprised people. You don't usually see white conservatives going after him only. They'll go after all of them. When Clarence Thomas makes a ruling that these white liberals don't like, remember Roe versus Wade? Because God forbid Terrence Thomas, a black American who is a descendant of American slaves, he's a freeman FBA. I don't necessarily know. I don't know a whole lot about Clarence Thomas. I used to hate him, but I realized one day, why do I hate him? Like, no one can ever explain what he did that was so bad. The thing I would hear people say about him was that he voted for states to have control over voting legislation. And then apparently in a documentary, I've never seen this documentary, it was explained that the reason he did that was because he didn't want the federal government to have the authority to necessarily take away voting rights of black Americans, like they always claim the Republicans want to do. So they said that he wanted to make sure that where states, especially in states where black Americans have a larger percentage of the population, can maintain their voting rights. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But my thing is, it's not like the Democrats have been fighting to give black Americans any more rights. It's not like they've been fighting for us to get reparations. They've had 30, 40 years to do it. So why get mad at Clarence Thomas for doing something that y'all ain't tried to do? Okay? Right. Y'all ain't been fighting for our rights. But in any case, though, I don't necessarily know a whole lot about Clarence Thomas's ruling. I just know that I grew up almost being told I was supposed to hate him. So, but I'm not. If he's done something off code, I mean, who's on code in DC? None of them are on code. So why hate him more than the rest of them? But I will say,
remember that situation in the early '90s with that woman?
Yeah,
Joe Biden was on Clarence Thomas' side, and Joe Biden was talking down on that woman.
And he was getting on that black woman, right? Anita Hill.
Yep, Anita Hill.
Right, and he was degrading her. And yet people forgave him. They forgave him for the crime bill that locked up a whole generation of black Americans. Not me, never. They forgave him for not just being a good colleague, but for being good friends with former Ku Klux Klan members and vividly, blatantly white supremacist, anti-black bigots. They forgave him for saying that black kids going to his children's schools would turn their schools into a jungle. And he wrote legislation to keep black kids out of better funded schools. But I'm supposed to hate Clarence Thomas? In the 70s and 90s, Joe Crow Biden wrote a bill that he wanted to start a drug czar that would have been the crime bill of the 70s and 80s, and even Nixon and Reagan said to him, "You are going too far."
Damn.
Okay?
Damn.
You know, if Reagan and Nixon are telling you you are going too far, Reagan and Nixon, then you know you have gone too far. So I'm tired of people telling me who I am supposed to hate or like. But when it came to Roe versus Wade, Clarence Thomas is a freeman, FBA. He is a descendant of American slaves, a black man who's a descendant of the enslaved American slaves. He wanted to stop black babies from being aborted, and I am right there with him. And yet, you saw him being called all sorts of N-words, not from the Trump supporters that these white liberals love to tell us are our real enemies, but from these same white liberals who are saying Black Lives Matter and gentrifying black people out of their neighborhoods. We're seeing that again. They don't say nothing to these 5 other conservative white justices. All their vitriol and hatred is always directed at Clarence Thomas. You don't see the same thing, generally speaking, when Clarence Thomas rules in a way that may disappoint white conservatives. Am I saying there's not anti-black bigotry among white conservatives? Of course not. Of course there is. But that's just showing who is the most anti-black. You see, like I tell these Democrats here in South Carolina, they like to say, oh, the Republicans are worse. I don't want to hear about how bad of a job my enemy is doing or how awful my enemy or how awful of a person is my enemy. I want to get on you about talk about how awful of a friend you are being. Okay, I expect my enemy to be my enemy. But when you, a so-called friend, is acting like my enemy or is actually being worse than my enemy, and you have opportunities to help me, and you're supposed to fight for me against my enemy, and you don't, that's the real problem now.
Hey, what you said for, bro? What you said, the Democrats get 90% of the vote, so they got to get 100% of the smoke.
That's right. That's right. If you get the vote, you get the smoke. If you get 90% of the vote, you will get 100,000% of the damn accountability.
Malcolm X told us way back in the 60s, the bite and the smile, the bite and the growl. The liberal is always the one who ends up sticking it to foundational Black American freedmen first. It's always them first. So, yeah, they're going to have to get the smoke. And
let
be
me
honest
with you, I have snakes. I'm not going to be mad at a snake for acting like a snake because I know how snakes act.
Because it's a snake.
I will get mad at a wolf that acted and disguised itself as a sheep because I thought you were a sheep, but you were really a wolf. The Democrats are the wolf, the ravenous rabbit wolf who disguise themselves as a sheep and say, we're here to help you. We're your friends. And the Republicans who are letting you know, hey, I'm a snake. Hey. Right. When you disguise yourself as a sheep and you tell me you're my friend, you're going to fight for me, and then you rip all that sheep's clothing and you tear me apart, and the snake is over there being a snake. The snake say, hey, I told you I was a snake. But you disguise yourself as a sheep? No, you, because you got my trust. You got my support. And you are going to get my accountability unapologetically.
That's how you do it. Hey, you know what? And we got to also... This generation, it's on us to clean up that misnomer that the damn Democrats are our friends and they allies and they all
never have been.
We got to clean that up.
Look on paper, the Democratic Party has been the most viciously anti-Black party for most of its history. Remember, in the 1800s, it was the Democratic Party who were the party of the enslavers. It was the Democratic Party who was against Black Americans getting reparations, who ushered in a lot of the sharecropping, lynch mobs, Jim Crow. Now, of course, a lot of those Democrats migrated over to the Republican Party. First, they were the Dixiecrats and migrated over to the Republican Party. But, okay, the truth of the matter is still the Democratic Party for most of its history has been the most viciously anti-Black American party. Ain't none of them been forced, because ultimately the Republican Party, for the party that we were once upon a time the most loyal, they abandoned us first. Okay, after slavery, there were some true Republicans like Frederick Douglass and some true white Republicans who were for reparations. Did you see a speech? I didn't see this, but apparently Donald Trump gave a speech last month saying how the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of Abraham Lincoln, and he was talking how Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. We know that's not completely true. And, so if any party should be for Black America, it should be the Republican Party. I will say this. I tell this to white Republicans in my ear all the time. The last thing Abraham Lincoln did, and some of them know it. I'll say to them, do you know? Oh, they'll be, yeah, I already know. Like, they already know where I'm going sometimes. I said, well, you know the last thing Abraham Lincoln did? Well, I'm like, yeah, I know what he did. He did the 40 acres and a mule. I said, exactly. So if you believe in the principles and the virtues upheld by Abraham Lincoln, and you say the Republican Party is a party of Abraham Lincoln, then how much more can you honor him than by fighting for what he died fighting for, which was reparations for Black Americans? And Ronald Reagan did the reparations for the Japanese American. Yep. I forgot who did it for the first. I think it was Eisenhower did one of the first reparation packages for Native Americans. I forgot the tribe. So my point is this: reparations is really more of a thing of the Republican Party. Okay, there have been. I mean, I'm not saying there haven't been some acts of the Democratic Party, but really anyone but Black Americans. Okay, anyone but Black Americans. But really, it's been the Republican Party that has historically been the reparations party, except for Black Americans. I'm gonna call them out of their anti-Black hatred too. But the point is that it's not the Democratic Party who gets most of our vote. It's supposed to be the most vociferous in fighting for us to get what we're owed.
Just like they put on their campaign ads. Just like when they show up after Breonna Taylor's harm and then they run around and talk about we gonna save the day. They use Black pain and suffering more than anybody, because Republicans don't run on we gonna solve Black pain and suffering.
Sure don't.
Who is the #1 beneficiary group for the Breonna Taylors, the Sandra Blands, the Corinne Gaines, the Rakia Boys, the Alta Sterlings? Who is the #1 beneficiary group to them? It's the Democratic Party, because all those faces go on their ad campaigns every single time. So we got to give them the thing. What we say, we know Republicans ain't shit. I mean, we don't have to sit here and tell Black folks Republicans ain't shit. We know that. The problem is that you think the Democrats are good when they ain't shit. So now they can get into the House. They can get next to you. They get close enough to put that knife in your back. And that's why me, you, brothers and sisters in the Black grassroots, everybody in the chat, this generation, is definitely our job to go ahead and expose it the same way that we've been exposing a lot of these tethers who've been coming over here, because there used to be a fake misnomer as well that they were our friends. I mean, everybody that used to be our friends, or that false belief that people had, we are getting rid of that. The Democrats used to be our friend, exposed. And now we've exposed the facts that these people who come over here, get off their boat, off their plane, they swam over here, they fucking jumped the fence to get over here. They're not coming over here to assist us. That's why I was applauding this affirmative action, because I'm seeing, like you said, brother, they're like, oh, Black people, Black people, Black people. Well, what Black people? Foundational Black American Freedmen, or tethers, or fleers, or fleedmen? Because when you look at the statistics, as you were saying, brother, it's not anything beneficiary to us. I'm seeing that 1/3 of Black people that are getting, getting into colleges, 1/3 of these people, like you said, they're not even looking at their background. And then when they do look at the background, these motherfuckers is from Uganda, in the village. In
some campuses,
both villages from the water well.
They say on average 40%, but in some campuses, especially in the so-called top Ivy League schools, 50 to 70% are not descendants of American slaves. And let me tell you something. I haven't put this on my Twitter page, but I've been saving it. Yeah. I was at the South Carolina, they don't call it the Black Caucus, South Carolina Council of Black Democrats. The chair, Miss Margaret Sumter, she's an elder. She's definitely not where I am on a lot of things, but she's open-minded. She calls me and we talk about reparations. She's open-minded. She's open. People, and that's why I try to get us to say, I have to get there too. People may not be where we are. And, I used to be, I'll call you a raccoon. And I had to understand, if a person's not where we are on policy, but they're open, talk to them. Take advantage of that. So let me tell you something that's crazy, Alpha. You'll believe it. Guess who's more open to speaking with me here in South Carolina?
Conservatives.
Exactly.
Yep.
I have met with more white Republicans who will, now, I'm not saying they have acted on anything yet, but they will sit with me and talk with me sometimes for over an hour, will sometimes be late to meetings. I have more resentment and animosity from these Black Democrats who think that they are a Democrat first before they're Black, and who are more concerned about making Clyburn happy. Now, that's not all of them. Don't get me wrong. Quite a few of them, too, will tell me they like what I say, tell me I'm what's needed, but because of they have their own interests, and I understand Clyburn is very well connected, and I understand they may have goals and things that they're working on that they feel will help our people, so they have to move a little bit more discreetly. So I'm not trying to, some of them aren't necessarily avoiding me out of malice. Some of them are avoiding me because they have goals, and some of them feel like a community center is really going to help our people. Some of them sincerely feel that little things like community center that puts out little fires, but it doesn't see. That's our problem in the community. We like to put out fires, but we're not addressing the spark. If the spark's today, that fire is going to start again. But some of them feel that community centers, apartment complex, they want to deal with immediate needs. But until we get those systemic needs met, we are never going to have our immediate needs adequately addressed. I try to get people I speak with here in my town to understand that. Okay, I'm giving you a ham today, but the ham's going to be gone soon. I need to feed us for generations. That's a systemic. But I will say this, those white conservatives, and this is crazy, but they will talk to me, even just to debate. Sometimes we have to go back and forth, but they will, a lot of them, most of them will at least say, you know what? I've never thought of this the way you just explained it. So y'all, I'm saying this to everyone listening. If no one in your state city, municipality, county is open or is speaking the language you want to hear, first of all, you need to be running for office, and we need to be supporting you. I'm not gonna say we don't come through, but we can always do better, and we have a lot of ways to go. However, if you quite aren't ready for that yet, you're building up there. If any of them have an open door to speak with them, go in there and speak with them and ask, how can we make this happen? Talk with them. So Ms. Sumter is open, but guess what Ms. Sumter said yesterday? Alpha. She said she was bothered by something. She said there was a group of young black men in her neighborhood. She's very active. She's in a small town that's right outside of Columbia, which is the capital of South Carolina. And she said the young men she went to them talk about the Democratic Party. They said, Ms. Sumter, you know, we love you, but we ain't trying to hear that. She was like, and she said, didn't they say something that disturbed her deeply? And she was in a crowd full of black people. I was virtual, but it was a whole room full. It was a whole lot of us virtual too. She said, they said, Ms. Sumter, we're going to be honest with you. We voted for Trump. And she said her jaw dropped. She said, these are young men she's known since they were babies. She's known their parents since they were babies. Their parents were loyal Democrats. That's the problem right there. And she said, she's been hearing that a lot. So Alpha, it ain't just happening on Twitter. There's literally a movement among black Americans, young black Americans, the younger side of the Generation Xers, the millennials. I don't know about the Generation Z's. Pretty sure among them too, where she said this, where they feel that the Democratic Party is not, they're tired of just hearing all talk. They're tired of black people being used. They feel that nothing comes out of voting for them. They feel that it's no need to even try to talk to the Democrats, but they're going to keep doing the same old. And they feel that from Trump, they can get more. She said this. She said that we got to do something different. Now, the problem is when Ms. Sumter mentioned her ideas, she mentioned the same old. She mentioned like getting choirs sold to the polls. But you see, that's why, but the thing is, though, to her credit, that's why she's called me. So she's calling people who are on a different energy. Because I think those are her ideas, but I think she realizes that her ideas, she might need to get some different ideas in. But I say that, Alpha, to realize that I know people, I say a lot of things. It's hard to hear everything I said, but I have been saying in some past that there's going to be a time where the Democratic Party, there's going to be a Republican strategist. There's going to be several of them, and they're going to wake up. I've always said this, and they're going to say, you know what? We don't care about these black people. We really don't. But we hate the Democrats. All we need to do is address some of the things that these black people are saying. They may not do reparations, but they may come out with some specific policies for freedmen FBA. Like the Supreme Court was mentioned, like Clarence Thomas mentioned, freedmen is not a racial group. It refers to a status, a lineage of the black people who are descendants of American slaves. And they might say, you know what? Let's do a program, just do a department just for them. Because in Donald Trump's Platinum Plan, he had a Department of African-American Affairs. That doesn't just go for us. But they say, you know what, Donald Trump? Let's just do it for freedmen. Let's have a department of the government just for them. All it takes is a Republican or a few Republican strategists to realize that black Americans are angry, furious. We've been neglected and we're hurting, to come up with some tangible policies to help us. If they get, there was an article one time said they just get 20 to 25% of the black vote, the Democratic Party goes extinct. I have been saying for the longest, if the Democrats want to survive, they better wake the hell up and address the needs of their base. See, one thing about the Republican Party, even if these white people in South Carolina and Georgia, even if the only thing they care about are gun rights and getting these illegal immigrants out of here, which the funny thing is, I care about gun rights. I want these illegal immigrants going. I want black babies being born. I don't want elective abortion. I'm tired of tens of millions of babies being aborted. How I can't believe we live in a country where almost 60, 70 million babies have been aborted. How did that even become a normal thing? Not because of medical emergencies, but elective. Those are things I don't like either. But if that's all their white voters care about, these Republicans are going to take care of their base. The Democratic Party is so stupid and so anti-black American that they will see that black Americans, without the black vote, they will not exist, and they refuse to still address our needs. But you know what? They brought on themselves, and all I say, if I'm around, I'll be sipping on pina colada on a hammock with the palmetto trees here in the Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina, and my little town, watching it go down now. Like that
That's how you do it.
That went down the ocean, they said imploded or whatever, which not making fun of, I mean, that's unfortunate tragedy, but that's just how, that's a live view of the Democratic Party, and they deserve it.
That plantation is crumbling. Think about what you said, brother. We could just point to a couple things that we've heard that's been spoken. First off, Donald Trump is the first president I've ever heard, even more so than Barack Obama. Remember when I think he said it twice. He said America was built by Black Americans.
Yep.
He said it 2 times.
The only one, and I did research. And I'm not saying
I've never heard it.
I know in modern history, you know, Obama never said it.
Nope.
You know, Slow Joe Crow never said it.
Nope.
I've been doing research. I'm not saying no one's ever said it, but literally, I have not found a president to ever say that. And it's so sad, Alpha. I mean, that's not a big thing. But the fact that he's the first president, only in modern history, maybe the first president to ever say that, and not just once, but twice, and to say it with his chest, it's sad. That's just how neglected we are, that just him saying it is a big damn deal. Yeah. And people can watch this, be as mad as they want to be, and think, well, he bigging up Trump. So the hell what? It's you damn right. I'm gonna give him credit for the platinum plan, and yeah, he's gonna say, you know, is Trump anti-Black American? He might be, but I know Obama was.
Yep.
Ain't no question about that. Ain't no question. Obama hated Black Americans. Every time he got in front of Black Americans, he's going to graduations where young Black men at Morehouse graduated. You know how hard it is for us to overcome these odds. And he's telling them about not being a baby daddy, take care of your children, sagging your pants. He doesn't go in front and talk to white graduates that way. Instead of him coming up with a plan to help Black Americans after the Charleston Massacre, he just goes there and sings some Negro spiritual, but doesn't do a hate crime bill to help us. But when these other shootings happen, he's either making tweets about how these groups need protection. So is Trump anti-Black American? I don't know. And guess what? I don't care. I don't care. As long as we get policies from him, how he feels about us is irrelevant. So we got to get off this emotion thing. He can hate me. I can hate him. You see, that's one thing these white people get that we don't. First of all, my mother always told me, and I've seen it, white people really can't stand each other a lot of times. They really can't. I've seen white people can't stand each other. And let me tell you what I've seen them do, though. They know how to say, okay, you know what? I can't stand you, can't stand me, but let's do business. And they can go in a room and sit down and do business. We get all emotional. That's why the Democrats can watch us die. We are 15 to 20% of the population, because you know the census undercounts us. They say about 3 to 4%, but the census probably undercounts the undercount too. So if they say we're 14, they say we're 50% of the population, that means we're probably like 19 to 20. But we're 60% of the homeless. Our wealth is heading to zero. 20 to 30% of Black families already have zero wealth. An additional 4.5 million have only $10,000 or less in wealth, okay? We own less homes now than we did during Jim Crow. Like in some areas, like in South Carolina, like in Savannah, Georgia, like in my town, Ridgeland, you have sometimes where 70 to 80% of the Black children are not reading or doing math from grade level. Not because they're not intelligent enough to do it, but because they're coming from troubled communities, and because they're coming from troubled communities, that the schools become troubled.
Yep.
We have communities throughout this nation that have poisoned water, and the majority of them have people that look like you and I. Flint, Michigan, Denmark, South Carolina, okay? Jackson, Mississippi.
Yep.
Okay? And yet, the Democratic Party gets our vote. They are one of the most powerful political entities in the world, probably the most powerful political party in the world. America's the most powerful country in the world. You can say what you want to say, but it is. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they are two of the most powerful political entities in the world. The Democratic Party only exists because of Black Americans, and we are to the bottom in a society we built. We've lost 90% of our land, somewhere like 20 million acres. That's trillions of dollars gone, okay? And yet, look, we're to the bottom in a society we built. That's our fault. We let them treat us like that. All they gotta do is do a fish fry, collard green, hit the corn, get down low and swing your arms, and sing a gospel, a Negro spiritual, and we happy, 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 happy. You see, that's the problem. So we so emotional. Okay, when it comes to these white people, they're like, damn that, we're going to do business. Let me see what you're offering me. Yep. I don't care. So I don't give a damn if Donald Trump doesn't like black people. If he's doing policies, though, that's going to help freedmen, FBA, black descendants of American slaves, you damn right he's going to get my support. I don't care how he feels about me. I care about what policies he's going to write for me. And if all of us were thinking that way, we wouldn't have the biggest bigot in office right now. Slow Joe Crow Biden.
Brother, how'd you put it before? I heard you say this before. You're on record saying this. You said, correct me if I'm wrong. You said when Republicans are in office, everybody suffers. When Democrats are in office, go ahead and finish that.
Yep, and that's the truth. When Republicans are, Republicans don't give a damn about no one. And they make it clear. They only care about themselves getting money. When Republicans are in office, everyone's going to suffer. The economy might crash, whatever. Everybody's hurting. Even white people are hurting. When the Democrats are in office, black people suffer. Okay? The Democrats will take care of everyone else, even the white working class voters who can't stand them, who ain't never going to vote for them. They will even look out for them. But they're going to make sure they do for them. They're going to do for Asian Americans. I don't care what anyone says. They wrote that specifically to benefit Asian Americans. Even started up a whole government hotline to report anti-Asian American hate crime. And then you got people like Roland Martian trying to tell us that it wasn't just for Asian Americans. And that's the whole damn reason they wrote it. And they started a whole damn hotline and resources, and states, governments, with the backing of the federal government, even gave grants to organizations that cater to Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Okay, the Obama, the State Department, helped to distribute $60 billion in reparations to Holocaust survivors or their descendants.
Yep.
Then the Obama government set aside $12 billion to help any Holocaust survivor or their descendant living in poverty. Native Americans have seen historic levels of funding underneath the administration of Slow Joe Crow Biden and Kamala Harris. Okay? LGBTQ, the Biden administration was trying, probably still are, was trying to do reparations for LGBTQ people who didn't get an inheritance because they were denied the right to marry. Illegal immigrants were about to get $450,000 per illegal. Even my aunt cares about being glamorous. One of my aunts, she don't care about politics. Even she called my mother cursing up a storm when she heard that. It got black people who I've never heard. My cousin in Charleston. Black people who I've never heard mention politics. Even they were pissed off when they heard that.
This is insane.
That's what the Democrats do. So the Democrats will take care of everyone but us. The Republicans will say F everyone. Democrats will say F black people. If I'm going to hurt, let everybody hurt. I'm not going to vote for a group that's going to specifically make sure I hurt but help everyone else. So, yeah, that's right.
Bringing in, hey, let's not forget the Ukrainians, because as we started this show, they got another $800 billion. Damn shame. Damn shame. Now, this is what I've been trying to tell people all the time. It's our job to, at the bare minimum, use these two damn parties against each other. And you can't do that voting 90% for the same party who has already practiced benign neglect on you for 60 years. I mean, the evidence is there. We don't need no more evidence. Like, we're not going to get a new evidence piece that's going to change our mind tomorrow. The shit is on the table. We know exactly how they feel about us. We know exactly their game plan. And this is why they're so upset right now as we talk about the affirmative action. Matter of fact, shit, while we're here right now, let me pull up something. We can pull up some of the stuff right now with the affirmative action. We can see in clear receipts on who they're upset about, who is upset, and everybody that we're going to end up seeing who's upset about affirmative action. These right here are our ops. I'm going to play this for you, brother, and I'll let you comment on it.
Now to a massive change to college admissions across the country tonight. This after the Supreme Court ruled race-conscious admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Activists argued the university's affirmative action policies discriminated against white and Asian American applicants.
From today, all children will be judged by the content of their character and also by their merit, not by color of their skin.
Look at them quoting Martin Luther King, family. They'll be quick to be anti-black, but anytime they need some type of credentials or whatever, they'll pull out a Martin Luther King quote real fast. That guy right there probably follows black kids around the store. just like what happened to our brother Cyrus Belton. But he'll turn around real quick and use a Martin Luther King quote. But let me continue.
Writing for the court, Chief Justice John Roberts said universities can still consider, quote, an applicant's discussion of how race affected his or her life, be it through discrimination, inspiration, or otherwise. In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote the decision rolls back decades of precedent and momentous progress.
All right, I'm not done yet, brother. I got one more to show us everybody who's, I already know that's got a whole lot of talking points right there. I got another one right here. This proves again, look how Joe Biden responded to this. This man damn near walked out an interview or strolled out of interview because y'all know he can barely walk. Let me let this pull up. I don't do ads. Hold on, fam. He was so upset that his ass strolled out. Which goes again to show us exactly what we've been saying, that you see who the ops are, you already see how they feel. They have no remorse. They know goddamn well how this affects foundational Black Americans, but they just don't give a shit.
They said the Supreme Court has
walking away.
its own legitimacy. Is this a rogue court?
This is not a normal court. The court has effectively ended affirmative action in college admissions, and I strongly disagree with the court's decision because affirmative action is so misunderstood. The way it works in practice is this: colleges first establish a qualified pool of candidates based on meeting a certain grade, test scores, and other criteria. Then and only then, it is from this pool of applicants, all of whom have already met the school standards, that the class is chosen after weighing a wide range of factors, among them being race. I've always believed that the promise of America is big enough for everyone to succeed, and that every generation of Americans, we have benefited by opening the doors of opportunity just a little bit wider to include those who've been left behind. I know today's court decision is a severe disappointment to so many people, including me, but we cannot let the decision be a permanent setback for the country. We need to keep an open door of opportunities. What I propose for consideration is a new standard where colleges take it.
Enough of that, old man. Brother, did you see the lady asked him, is this a rogue court? Now, remember the same thing happened with immigration, where they was literally telling people basically how to break the law. If ICE comes for you, go run and hide. Go to this town, duck. Now, they've never said that to a Black person who has to deal with anti-foundational Black American hatred. They never said that to the Sandra Blands of the world, the Jordan Davises, the Tamir Rices of the world. They never tell us what we can do to get away from any type of systemic brutality. But literally, this man is telling people that the Supreme Court is a rogue court. What would happen if me and you were to say, if me and you came out right now and we said this is a rogue court? They'd be talking about how anti-American we are. We're not patriotic. We need to, come back and, speak more nice. This shows you again that at the end of the day, they are so in tune with putting white women or tethers above us that when they get their asses told no, he has a hissy fit. How you feel about that, brother?
First of all, so Joe Crow Biden is just a disgusting, flea-laced, crackhead, raisins, anti-Black bigot. So that's what that thing is always going to be. I want to go to that Asian guy quoting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I find that very funny. Yeah, they like to quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They only know that I have a dream, judge somebody by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Okay, well, let's go some other things Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, shortly before he was killed, that we're coming to get our check. And he was talking about how white Americans and European immigrants had been given billions of dollars by the American government, but Black Americans, as he referred to them as a Negro, were denied those same benefits, and that Black Americans were going to Washington, D.C., the government, to get the check we was owed. They forget that quote. They forget that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that if the nation had done something against the Negro for 300 years, then the nation owes the Negro something special to make up for the damage done for those 300 years. So you want to quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Let's start pulling out all those quotes, shall we not? Okay? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said that this nation will never, ever have peace. This is not a direct quote, but he pretty much said in that same I Have a Dream speech, which, by the way, he first gave that speech in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
Delivered that speech in Savannah, Georgia, in Madison Square. Then he gave it in D.C. He delivered it in Savannah, Georgia to a very large crowd. He said that this nigga, he vacationed over here in South Carolina in St. Helena Island, and then he went on to Savannah, Georgia, and gave that speech and practices. So he used to love the Low Country. The Low Country was his little getaway. And I can understand why. And, the Low Country is still a very Black region, but then it was like pretty much all Black. And, So this was like his little vacation spot. He used to love coming down to the Low Country. And he first gave SB Savannah, but he's pretty much said in so many words, America will never have peace until they do right by Black Americans. And America has yet to do right by Black Americans. So you want to pull out Martin Luther King Jr. quotes? Let's pull them all out.
Big ones, family. I got another person right here. I'm sure you're aware of this guy right here. He's another dude that be out here caping. So everybody watching right now, y'all know who this is. This is Mr. Vanessa, or shall I say Mrs. Vanessa Jones. Watch the way he's trying to tie this into the same scare tactics. And I want to say this to everybody because I always bring this up. You notice how every time it's election season, they always find something to scare tactic Black people with. Either it's a race soldier harming one of us, like George Floyd. Remember that situation with George Floyd? That got turned from, Black people getting harmed into vote for Joe Biden or get Trump out of office. Or it's going to be voter suppression. That's really for illegals to vote. And now you're going to see this with affirmative action. They're using this to scare us into vote blue. They always point to something that the evil Republicans did to tell us that our rights are being violated. Even 9 times out of 10, this bullshit, and it has nothing to do with us. Because, by the way, the same way they went around and they hijacked the Breonna Taylor, the Ahmaud Arbery, the Rashard Brooks, they hijacked all of those protests, and we still never got a hate crime law. The same way they run around talking about voter suppression, it has nothing to do with us. We've been able to vote since the 60s. And now, right here with this affirmative action situation, it benefits tethers and W women way more than us. So whatever they use to scare tactic us with, it never really means anything, because how the hell does it affect us when it never benefited us? Watch the way he's trying to tie this in immediately to Black people and say, basically, Black folks, this is an assault on your rights. You better vote for Joe Biden in 2024.
So out of touch with their reality. I'm a young Black kid.
Let me unmute him because he's all over the damn place. Here we go.
You just made affirmative action no longer helpful to me. It's harder for me to get an education. Now you say it's harder for me if I get one to pay off my student loans. My cousin or my best friend or myself, who might be gay or lesbian, any store they walk into, they might get discriminated against. The Supreme Court says it's okay. This court's not my friend. This court is my opponent. This court is my enemy. Then I look at the election, the presidential elections. Liberals win the popular vote every time by gazillions of votes, but the Electoral College makes it a squeaker every time. Wait a minute, the Electoral College, that's not on my side. Wait a minute, this is the Senate. The Senate, Montana has as many senators as California. California's got neighborhoods bigger than Montana. Wait, the Senate, wait, are all of these institutions stacked against me? Is this country on my side? You don't want that. You want to have a system that is responsive, that is flexible, and a Supreme Court that's fair, so that new generations feel that America is their country, it's on their side, it cares about them, it can hear their cry. It's the opposite that's happening. The younger generation's values are being just rubbed in the dog poo by the Supreme Court over and over again. And if you think they're not watching, if you think they're not listening, that's not true. And so I think it's a very, very bad a moment for the country. Obviously, if you're an Asian parent, you might breathe a sigh of relief. There has been a sense that they've had to work harder than others. But to pit Black and brown kids against
it goes Black and brown
Asian kids, you get some of my damn nerves.
The legacy of folks, half the white folks of these Ivy League campuses are there because their granddaddy was there, but my granddaddy couldn't be there. The Supreme Court says I don't care. This is bad. This is bad. It's bad looking backwards in terms of the level of.
Now, brother, before I let you cook, family. Notice how he said Black and brown. First off, we already knew that was coming. That's Vanessa Jones, by the way. Notice how he said his grandparents. You already know. He said his grandparents. But that's funny because he's talking about the Supreme Court don't honor his grandparents. Affirmative action did not honor your grandparents because affirmative action went to Mr.
He's not Black American.
Thank you.
Where's his grandparents are from? Where now? Is he from the Caribbean?
I don't know where he's from. Is he Italian? He might be.
I don't know. I heard that he's Caribbean. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
he might be a homegrown cooner. He might be a foreign one.
He's not honoring his damn grandparents because his grandparents didn't march for Black and brown. It wasn't brown people being oppressed. It was actually some of the quote unquote brown people with the so-called quote unquote white people doing the oppression of the Black Americans who were out there marching and fighting for rights they have been denied, and we still technically are, because we're denied, we're still suffering the legacy, okay? He's honoring his grandparents. But, He needs to go back and hide like he did when he got called out about apologizing to the white Jewish community for Black Americans not being better allies, when the white Jews who are Holocaust survivors are getting reparations and a whole package of other programs specifically for them and their descendants, while we have not yet gotten anything. And my great-grandfather, like I always say, is 99 years old. He turned 99 a few weeks ago, is a World War II veteran who helped to stop Hitler and the Nazi regime. And these Holocaust survivors and their descendants, a lot of them are living very, very well because of reparations packages. So, and yet he goes in front of a group of them and say that Black Americans who are descendants of American slaves, freemen, FBA, ought to apologize for not being better allies to them. He better go. He needs to go back crawling that little hole he crawled in for a month or two after that happened, hiding from the backlash when he was called out on it. Black and brown. You know what? That's one thing I'm happy about with this Supreme Court ruling. They pretty much shut that down. They were like, hold on. They talked about how the Supreme Court had deprived Black Americans after chattel slavery ended. They said how the Supreme Court for a century participated in the deprivation, discrimination of rights and equity and opportunities to which Black Americans were entitled. They mentioned that. And Neil Gooch, I think I got his name now, said that the only time an institution can use racial classifications is to make up for instances of people of a certain group being denied their constitutional rights that may have been in part due to their race, which is the case with freedmen, because we were denied our rights, not just because we were Black, but also because we were descendants of American slaves, the group that, as Neil Gooch acknowledged in his opinion, and Justice Roberts acknowledged in his opinion, were targeted and discriminated against by the American government. So I'm glad the Supreme Court killed this whole, oh, you not white, you get this, you get, oh, you're not a white man at least, you get this, you get this, you get this. I'm glad they killed that and acknowledged it was a specific group that was wronged, and that Supreme Court too helped to wrong them.
Brother, that sounds like lineage-based to me.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly how it should be.
That's what we all been saying. We've been saying this since the beginning. We're moving into the lineage-based era, and it's all because of us in the Black grassroots, all of us, all the brothers and sisters, we are moving into it. Let's be real. If the Black grassroots wasn't speaking on lineage-based, wasn't pushing that line, wasn't kicking that energy, it wouldn't even be nowhere out there. You're starting to see those changes. That's why we were saying our effects look different. Our victories look different than everybody else. This is lineage-based, and this ain't no coincidence that when we start speaking on lineage-based, you start seeing shit like this get done. If we weren't here to push that narrative, it probably wouldn't happen. So it's all lineage-based. But speaking of lineage-based, there was a guy, brother, where he's not of the lineage, but he portrayed to be of the lineage. And, you know, every time something happens to us, he comes out with the same old, can't we all get along, forgive, forgive, forgive. And as you said earlier, so you know where I'm going with this, he sings little Negro spirituals and stuff. He came out immediately, and he had a whole statement on the whole situation, brother. This is Barack Obama, and then his wife said something as well.
Out a very interesting one from former
Let's listen to Barack Obama. Get the whole correct. We got to make sure you put the whole in there.
Lady Michelle Obama, who we hear from so infrequently since she's left the White House on really any matter. But you remember that the story of Michelle Obama begins on the south side of Chicago, involves her going to Princeton to study sociology and African-American studies, and then on to Harvard Law School. She is an African-American woman who, you know, went to the Ivy League and has surely benefited from superior higher education.
African-American, foundational Black American, freedmen do not benefit from affirmative action. That lasts for about 5 years.
And that's what the data shows.
The data. And all of these people right here, these are multi-billion-dollar companies who all have the statistical data, all the information. So if our asses know what it is, they know. They just not talking about it.
So she writes in a lengthy statement today, in part, before we get to that part that we see there, I want to call it another part. She says, of course, students on the campuses she went to and countless others across the country were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. She says some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster or hit a ball harder. Others go to high schools with lavish resources for tutors and extensive standardized test prep that help them score higher on college entrance exams. We don't usually question if those students belong, she says. So often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. She goes on to say, today is a reminder, or today, my heart breaks for any young person out there who's wondering what their future holds and what kinds of chances will be open to them. And while I know the strength and grit that lies inside kids who have always had to sweat a little more to climb the same ladders, I hope and I pray that the rest of us are willing to sweat a little too. Today is a reminder that we've got to do the work not just to enact policies that reflect our values of equity and fairness, but to truly make those values real in all of our schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods. Notably then, former President Obama, in a much shorter statement, says in part, like any policy, affirmative action wasn't perfect, but it allowed generations of students like Michelle and me to prove we belonged. Now it's up to all of us to give young people the opportunities they deserve and help students everywhere benefit from new perspectives. So that is a notably, strongly worded reaction from Michelle Obama, who clearly has an opinion on this and has expressed opinions on so little else in the years since she left the White House.
Oh, notice that. Notice that, brother. Notice what he said right there. She's expressed her opinions on so little. And I guarantee you that so little are issues that affect us. But it's so much when it's issues that affect every other group except for us. So how do you feel about the Obamas coming out and basically caping for all these other groups? Because mind you, those are the groups that he was put in office for. So it's only natural that he caped for. And by the way, that was all fair use. Go ahead, brother.
First of all, did any of the Obamas say a damn thing about the Buffalo Massacre? Because you know the anniversary of the Buffalo Massacre was not so long ago. Did any of the Obamas say a damn thing about Juneteenth? And more so, Obama, the so-called man of the relationship, when he was in the White House, he acknowledged that he knew reparations would be the right thing to do. But he pretty much acknowledged not doing it because he's a coward and he's a pussycat. So he needs to shut the hell up. He had plenty of time to undo the so-called inequities that now he's mourning that affirmative action, now that has been taken away, will still continue to exist. So if he really cared about equity and fairness, he would have done some affirmative action then. Now, Michelle Obama actually does make a good point. She makes a point that's really fair. First of all, look, let me talk about them for a second. White Americans have been the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action, okay? From land grants, where they were given 300 million acres of land. That's over $10 trillion today. And a study shows that nearly 100 million white Americans today are still living off the wealth of the Homestead Act of 1862. The GI Bill, which sent 15 million white Americans to college, helping them become the middle class, upper class professionals that many of them are today, and built the American middle class. Pretty much gave them houses, gave them pensions, gave them unemployment, gave them government-provided health care, pretty much made neighborhoods in which they could live cheaply and affordably. And there were lots of other programs that's too numerous to name. So if anyone wants to talk about affirmative action, white men and then white women have been the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. Even right now, in some schools, 70% of the white students are admitted because of legacy admissions, which means the school gives them preference because either a parent went to that school. Black Americans were kept out of a lot of schools until the 1960s. So while their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and great-grandparents were allowed to go to these schools, we were government sanctioned, discriminated against, and kept out of these schools. So they're benefiting from affirmative action as we speak it every damn day. So any person that wants to talk about fairness, if you really care about fairness, you will be pushing for Black Americans or descendant of American slaves, freemen, to get the reparations we are owed. So Michelle Obama makes a point. This whole thing about, everybody needs to act off their merits, that's already a folly, because you already have people who are born inheriting wealth, like these white Americans, a lot of them, especially those ones who are legacy admissions. They go to schools where they can afford tutors, where they get special coaching, special programs, where they get world-class trips and other experiences that a child going to a school in a troubled neighborhood where they can barely get an art teacher, a math teacher, an English teacher, kids who went to school in my area, for example, there's inequities built in this country. But you expect their admission to a college to be based on a standard where everyone's supposed to reach it. So she makes a point there. But she needs to shut the hell up too. Because if this was really hurting Black Americans, her ass would have been speaking out decades ago when all the data was showing that affirmative action was mainly benefiting white women. And when it does benefit Black people, it's benefiting Black immigrants, not Black Americans. So both of them can shut the hell up, and they can crawl back in that damn hole too from where they crawled out of. They get on my goddamn nerves. I can't stand them.
Ain't it better, bro, when they not saying nothing? They sound a lot smarter when they're not talking. Big facts. I'm glad you brought up immigrants, brother, because, you know, I got another little immigrant real quick, and I think a lot of brothers and sisters seen this guy. You ever seen this? His name is Amach Ho. You ever heard of this guy?
I don't like him already.
He is
I hate him. He needs,
yeah.
God. Let me go ahead and let you play the video. Brother, I can't stand him.
Brother, listen to my mind you. Brother, I gotta get your opinion on this one, brother. I gotta get your opinion. I've been waiting to hear you roast.
Okay, I'm gonna take a deep breath for
this
you.
guy just came out.
This is a Nigerian.
Brother, now he came
who
out.
Stays in Black American business.
He told everybody that he does not have the same experience with race because he is not a Black American. Basically, he was trying to pull that shit in the Tethers pull. You know when the Tethers pull that shit like, oh, we don't have any problems. We don't view race. Race don't get in our way. Watch this sucker right here say this. And I'm not even gonna play the whole clip. I'm just gonna give enough so you can roast for the family so we can all have a good laugh.
The oppressor has unfortunately won again. In case you missed it, Supreme Court, they overturned affirmative action. What does that mean? That means that colleges can no longer allow race or...
Oh, by the way, this is Emmanuel Ach Ho, not Cho, Ho.
Gender to play a role in admittance. Here is why that is a pivotal mistake. Well, number one, race has always played a factor in determining college.
Oh, now it does.
What do I mean? College admittance is primarily based upon standardized testing. Well, standardized testing isn't actually a metric of intelligence. Standardized testing is a metric of resources. It's a metric of what caliber of education did you receive? Well, your education is based upon the public school system or private school system that you went to, primarily public school system. A public school system is based upon the resources of that public neighborhood. That public neighborhood is based upon redlining, and redlining has been based upon racism. Okay, let me give it to you in the inverse. If racism dictated redlining, who could live in what neighborhoods? Probably put the Black people and the brown people over here. And the redlining dictates who lives in a neighborhood.
Said Black and brown again. Matter of fact, fuck this dude. Brother, I'm gonna go ahead and let you roast him. I want to say one thing though. Do you notice how tethers only see race whenever they get stuck to by the dominant society? These are the same people who come over here and tell us they don't see race, that Akon shit, right? We don't see race. And it's only when really all the minority groups do this shit, all the POCs and the Black and brown coalition, they never see color until they get the damn latch on their ass. Until then, they try to make it look like it's a Black thing. This is the same guy who said he didn't see color. So it's funny how now he sees color. Go ahead, brother.
Where do I even begin? First of all, this is the same guy who really epitomizes the issue with some of these damn Black immigrants. When he thought Trump was not going to honor the results of the election where Joe Biden supposedly won, because I don't know who voted for that. This dumb flea crackhead idiot anti-Black bigot. But in any case, he said he had a photo of him saying, I'm updating my Nigerian passport, so just in case things get crazy in America, I can leave. You see, that's the problem with a lot of these immigrants and these Black immigrants. They want to say we're brothers and sisters, but the moment if things ever get bad in America, they want to haul tail and abandon us. That's not what a brother or sister does. And that makes it very clear. They're not here because they love us so much. They're here to benefit themselves at our expense. They want to run away if things get bad. We do the fighting. And then when we done calm things down and we done got things settled and built things up, then they want to come run back. This is the same guy. Redlining did not impact brown people. Redlining was specifically done to Black Americans, okay? And these so-called brown people who came over, a lot of them were classified as white. There's a documentary in Texas where someone spoke with Mexicans in Texas and were asking them, hey, growing up during Jim Crow, were you in the area for colored people, or were you in the area for whites only? A lot of the Mexicans was like, well, I went to the whites. And then one Mexican lady, she was like, growing up, I said to my mother, I said, hey, Mommy, why do they have 2 water fountains? And she said, her mother just looked at her and said, honey, I'm sorry, but that's just for the blacks. A lot of the Mexicans would be, even the ones that were darker skin, they was like, no, unfortunately, they only treated the blacks like that. We can go wherever we wanted to go. Who were being honest and saying it was not done to them as Mexicans. Okay, redlining was something specifically done to target descendants of American slaves, black descendants of American slaves. But you see, he only gives a damn about affirmative action because his people benefit from it. Because a lot of these Nigerians who come over to America to go to school, they benefit from whatever affirmative action program. Again, there's data showing that when affirmative action does help black Americans, it's helping black immigrants, not the black people, those who are descendants of American slaves for whom it was intended to help. So he needs to shut up and crawl in whatever hole he crawled out of, or go to Nigeria like he was planning to do when he thought that Trump wasn't going to leave the White House. The coward. He's always in our damn business.
Brother, like
he got this show called Conversation with a Black Man where he talks with white people, I guess mainly white Americans, about issues of race and culture, but he's talking about issues that he does not even yet understand, because he made a post saying he didn't learn about America or how it was to be black in America until he started playing for the NFL. So this is a man who just learned about the black experience in America as an adult. So who the hell gives him the authority to be talking about our issues with white Americans, talk about the historic issues of being black, being a black American in America, when he admitted he only started learning about black America and the issues of being black in America as an adult. His parents are Nigerian. And he's talking about us. Talking about, and I remember he was on that show with Van Jones, who went off on him. I'm glad he did. Talking about, well, you know, I don't have the historic burden of racism. Okay, then why the hell do you feel then you can speak on our behalf when people talk about our issues and what should be the solution? Who the hell are you to come in when you admit it? You didn't even know about issues black people face until you were an adult, and you are not a black American. Your parents are literally Nigerian, and you are literally a few years in America and the American experience. So who the hell are you to be talking as the face or representing our issues to a larger audience without, if he wants to help, use your platform to have black Americans from different backgrounds come on and speak.
Oh, good point.
How paternalistic to think, you know what, I just learned about y'all a couple of years ago. Now I'm the one who's going to speak and tell y'all how you need to feel. How disgustingly paternalistic.
Hey, don't they want to turn into, they be tethers, they want to be historians when they want to, they want to be strategists when they want to. No, use a damn tether. That's what you is. Point blank, bottom line. No matter what hat you try to wear, your ass is wearing the Jollof hat, homie, or the goddamn nachos hat, or the damn goat milk hat, whatever the fuck you got on. It is not FBA. Let me play this one more clip for you, brother. I'm gonna let you slide out of here, brother. You know, we chop it up forever, man. You know how we do.
Right.
But, you know, I want everybody to get back to doing what they do and everybody enjoy their night. I want to play one clip, though, because me and you talk about this all the time. And I think we were saying this, you know, months ago. We say reparations over immigration. You know, and I'm on record telling everybody.
Reparations and deportations.
And deportation. We're going to add all three of them. And separation and regulation, all of the above. And I always tell people, I said, when it comes to candidates, if a candidate is talking about reparations, they got my attention. If they're talking about building a wall or deporting folks, they got my attention. Now, if you're talking about both, then we can sit down at a table, because it's all about working with people that got something in it for us. Like you said, brother, I don't give a damn about no personal stuff. I ain't trying to go hang out with you. I ain't trying to go to the store with you. I ain't trying to be your friend. None of that. We check all of the emotion at the door. That's the last generation. We about business. This is the business era. If you talking what's in it for me, then we can have a conversation. If you talking about what I can benefit from, we can have a conversation. If you ain't talking about none of that, fuck you. That go for red and the blue. I want to play this clip real quick, brother. And it's of Donald Trump, and he's talking about closing the border. But bigger than that, he was talking about the biggest deportation process. Yes. And
I saw it. I don't like to see it, but I think I saw it.
I want to say he said in American history, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And I want to play this clip, and I want to have you comment on it, because I know a lot of the brothers and sisters in this era, that's what we're about. We're about reparations and getting our money, point blank, period. And at the same time, we're also about sending these people home. Because I always say, you cannot be pro-reparations and pro-immigration because they want to give all the immigrants your reparations money. So if any Democrat shill, any sucker come around and they say they do both, they're a damn liar. You got to be one or the other. We are not pro-immigration. We are pro-reparations. And if you got to get your ass sent home in the process, then you getting your ass sent home in the process. I'll play this clip for you, brother, and I want you to comment to it for the family because I know the family wants to hear what you got to say.
With today's termination of the final remnants of Title 42, Joe Biden has officially abolished what remained of America's borders and turned the United States into a dumping ground for illegal aliens.
That's right.
We've become a third world nation. At this very moment, illegal aliens are lined up by the tens of thousands, ready to break into our country, knowing that even if they are caught, Joe Biden will order them immediately released into American communities. And many of these people are very dangerous. Under Biden, our border is gone, our sovereignty is gone, our national security is gone, and we are quickly becoming that third world nation that I've been talking about for so long. It's happening to us, if you can believe that. The United States of America is now a third world nation. On day one of my new administration, I will end this travesty and restore the sovereign borders of the United States of America. We will immediately resume expedited removals of people that are crossing illegally our border. And following the model of President Eisenhower, we will use all necessary federal, state, local, and military resources to begin the largest domestic deportation effort in American history. To send the border violators back to their home countries, and we will do that immediately. This invasion will not stand. Our country is being invaded. Our country
it sure is
destroyed by very, very stupid people. These are stupid people. We have to get them out. We have to take back the White House.
Brother. Man, brother, that's all on you. I'm going to let you cook, family. And all I'm going to say is send their ass home. Go ahead, brother.
I will say the same thing. And I mean, I don't think I need to add anything. He said the same thing. Our country is being invaded. And the arrogance that these illegals have, acting like they're doing us a favor by coming here, acting like they are the only hard workers. First of all, if you really worked hard, you will be working hard in your home country. Okay? You work hard, you'll be working hard where you put your 2 feet on the ground originally. Okay? They come in acting like they're doing America a favor, like we need them. That's a damn lie. And the sad, stupid thing is some Americans walk around acting like we need these immigrants to come here. No, we don't. Okay? There is no job that you will not be able to find an American willing to do. Americans, though, are going to, and rightfully so, demand a fair wage. Coretta Scott King even was against immigration, legal as well, and definitely illegal. She said when you bring these legal and illegal immigrants here, she said you are lowering the quality of living. Then she talked about illegal immigration. They will accept a lower wage, and that will depress the standard of living for everyone. Coretta Scott King wrote that in the 1990s. It wasn't no 1960s, 1990s, and she was right. Barbara Jordan, who is a Black American hero, freedom hero, we don't give her enough flowers. Barbara Jordan, one of the most anti-legal immigration people in history. And she said, I think it was in 1980, she said illegal immigrants don't have a right to nothing in America. She said if they have any needs, their native government and their country, the government in their native countries should be providing it. So Black Americans have long realized the danger illegal immigration presents to us. They need to go, and damn it, I ain't there yet because I want to hear some more policies Trump is planning to do for Black Americans, freedmen, but I'm almost on my damn way to get a Make America Great Again hat because I am tired of this illegal immigration invasion. Alpha, I can't take it no more. It needs to stop. It's ridiculous. What country just allows anyone to waltz in and you automatically give them billions, trillions now? You take the past 2 years, trillions of dollars in housing, food, work services, transportation, while actual Americans are suffering. This has to stop. And damn it, it's going to. And that's all I got to say about that.
Checkmate. Always tell people when it come down to it, it's never personal. It's only business. And if my business is personal, then that's a personal problem for you. That part. Man, brother, good point, man. It's been good chopping it up with you, brother. I'm going to let you go ahead and slide on out, man. Tell the people where they can find you, man, or anything that you want to go ahead and speak to the whole certified 100, all my FBAs, all my certified Black Society, all the Black Alpha Network people, man. Let them know where they can find you, man. And you already know it's always love when you come through, man. It's a low country thing.
Alpha, thank you for having me. I always enjoyed being on. First of all, you know, Marcel4Congress.com. And I want to say, I'm always in Savannah, but I've been in Savannah a lot more. I was on the radio station with Councilwoman Blakely Miller, Alicia Blakely Miller. She's, first of all, a lot of people are starting to speak like us. She talked about FBA freemen. She talks about reparations, and she's on call. Her, and I forgot the other two that, Councilwoman Keisha Carter Gibson. On Savannah City Council, and there's another one. I think Councilwoman Elaine Johnson. Those three Black American ladies, they be holding it down. They be talking about how Black Americans, Black Savannians, Native Savannians need to get business license. Savannah, Georgia has over 600 alcohol licenses, and only 7 are owned by Black Americans. Yet Savannah, Georgia is nearly 60% Black. What the heck? And she said, Councilwoman Alicia Blakely Miller said, no taxation without representation. And Black Americans have been paying taxes into the American government and into Savannah, Georgia for centuries without any adequate representation. And she said, no more. So, Alpha, you got some councilwoman there, and I'm asking you to support. Councilwoman Keisha Gibson Carter is running to be the next mayor of Savannah, Georgia, against that ultimate big raccoon, whatever that, I'm not even going to say its name, don't even deserve to have his name stated, the raccoon, that Johnson, whatever thing, who has started task forces for Hispanics. Savannah is less than 5% Hispanic. He has a task force to address their needs. He does a task force for LGBTQ. I think he has a task forse for Asians. Asian Americans are, I don't even think they're 1% of Savannah's population. Black Savannahans are 60% of Savannah's population, are almost 90% of the homeless, almost 80% of the ones in poverty. You look at Brownsville, I think that's the name of the oldest neighborhood, Black American neighborhood in Savannah, Georgia, boarded up, abandoned. It looks depressing, okay? You go to River Street, you see these white tourists living it up. You see Black Savannians sleeping on those same cobblestone streets that their ancestors built that's bringing the city of Savannah, Georgia, billions of dollars, and they aren't getting a penny from it. And that damn fat raccoon does nothing about it. He needs to go. So I'm begging you and anyone you know to please get out there and support Councilwoman Keisha Gibson Carter, Councilwoman Alicia Blakely Miller, Councilwoman Elaine Johnson. I'm going to be reaching out to them. They have me on their Councilwoman Alicia Blakely Miller. I may be saying her name wrong. I'm not sure if it's Blakely Miller or Miller Blakely. I'm sorry, Councilwoman, but she had me on a radio station. We got people calling in. It was great. You know, people may say, well, Savannah, Georgia is not your area. First of all, shut up. Second of all, people only say that who are not from here, because anyone who's from here knows that people in Jasper County, South Carolina, we are always Savannah, Georgia. It's been shown hundreds, probably thousands of people in Jasper County, South Carolina have to work and commute to Savannah daily for work
every day.
My parents had 3 of their 4 children there. I was one of the 3 they had in Savannah. My doctor's there. You know, a lot of them work. A lot of people in Hampton County, South Carolina, Jasper County, South Carolina, and Beaufort County, South Carolina, always in Savannah, Georgia. Our stations, news channels,
we get the same news.
Georgia. Right. So being on a Savannah radio station is as good as being on one over here, because we don't have our own, really, unless you consider those little AM stations. A lot of us don't even tune into here. So we have some 3 women who are on call. They talk about reparations. I'm going to reach out to the councilwoman again to see what I can do to help. I mean, I know I'm stretched so thin, but you know what? I don't mind stretching myself even thin and help get out people what they're old. So thanks for having me, Alpha. I really appreciate it.
Most definitely, man. You stay good, family. We're going to definitely touch down, fam.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Salute, brother. All right, family. Man. It's good always chopping it up with our brother, man. It's good always chopping it up with the whole family. Man, I hope everybody's doing good. Y'all better be waving them FBA flags, putting it in people's face, letting everybody know what time it is, and just letting everybody know that this is our era. This is our time. You know, we're going to continue to roast. We're going to bring it on back. Whoever gets in the way, we're going to let them know what time it is. But everything that we discussed today and everything we're going to discuss in the future, it all revolves around the Black grassroots. It's all about us. Everything that's changing in our society is all about us. When you see the affirmative action come down, or you see any of the Roe versus Wade situation, that whole situation right there, that was a bunch of Karens trying to get our sisters to get on board, and our sisters said, fuck no. You feel me? And that's what it's about. We sit out things that don't concern us. That whole June 1st thing that they was having in Florida, we sat that out. We set out the affirmative action situation, Roe versus Wade, so on and so forth. If it does not concern FBA, then FBA is not going to get involved. And that's the way of the future. That's the way we've been pushing, and that's the way we're going to continue to go, because I know goddamn well we do that right here on Certified Black Society, Black Alpha Network. So I just want to thank everybody for tapping in. We're going to continue to keep on pushing. We're going to continue to have that energy, and we're going to continue not to give 2 fucks, 1 fuck, no fucks. So with that said, man, y'all all enjoy your day. Y'all all enjoy your night. Stay good, stay healthy. Yes, indeed. I'm going to talk to everybody later. Everybody stay good. Certified salute from the Black Alpha Network. We are one tonight. Let us be one in the future. Power to all of our people.
Kid, what y'all think? If you whatever the fuck you think you are, and until we own some shit, I'ma call it like it is. How you gonna be a man and we starving? Go ahead. You know? And you can walk by 5 different houses, ain't a man in either one of them motherfuckers. How we gonna be a man? How we gonna be African Americans? And we out here dying. We thugs and we niggas